tell me those stories here.
Yeah, so I made like a lot of mistakes and learned a lot of things because, as you said, I was 16. I was 16. No business knowledge whatsoever. So I can tell you like one of the mistakes I made, I guess. So I naively thought to order, because I basically put in an order and I got the 10 women employed in the factory. So then all my communications were with the factory owner and the women. So like my main contact there was like the factory owner, who was actually one of my grandfather's good friends. So it was pretty easy for me to keep in contact with him constantly and to, see how things were going and stuff. But my first order of shirts, I ordered a lot of smalls and not that many mediums and larges. And so I found as I was selling things, like people tended to buy like slightly larger sizes, and I thought at the time that like it was the right size, and so I ended up like not being able to sell a lot of the smalls and ended up selling more of the mediums and larges, and so I had like a large inventory of smalls, and I was like, oh no, what do I do? But then I sort of kind of, I guess, refocused my client base. Instead of going for like people my age, I started going for like elementary age kids and like marketing to their parents and like, going off that whole brand, rework my strategy to incorporate my mistakes, I guess. So that was one of them. Another thing that I kind of did was I went off of other models that I thought were successful. So I looked at Project Red. I think they worked with Gap, and they basically like did the same thing. They had clothing, they also had shoes, bags. They basically partnered with a lot of high-profile artists and like celebrities, and they used their logo on like the shoes and the shirts, and then all the money that was collected would go back to help AIDS in Africa, I think was their goal. And I just used their marketing strategy. So they reached out to like a lot of stores, and so I tried to reach out to a lot of local stores like in Princeton, in my town. So I kind of just learned from like other sort of organizations that I knew were successful that people talked about. Like Tom's is a big one now. Like I'm sort of looking into their model and like seeing how I can make Hope Line more sustainable for the future. And so yeah, and another big source for me was definitely my grandfather. He like pointed me out to like good resources, and now that I'm in college, I have a lot of support from my clubs that I join, my organizations, my peers, my professors. I'm taking a couple of classes relating to development, so that's really helpful. And yeah, so I guess in the beginning it was definitely really challenging getting it started and stuff, but now it's sort of a new challenge of trying to move it in the direction that I see it going. So I have like sort of a five year, where I kind of see it in 5 years, and it's definitely going to be challenging figuring out how to get all the resources to get it there. So now that it's like established, the next sort of challenge is and my teachers in high school, and they sort of pointed out to like other successful models that they'd heard of, and I found out that just distributing textbooks and school supplies wasn't really going to help. You have to really implement a long-term sustainable change, and so that's when I started looking into the research. But when I was a sophomore, I really didn't have that much of an idea, and I just had like the passion, and I had the initial idea, and then I realized like I was going to have to do a lot more research in order to make more sustainable change. So.
Were you, did you feel that there was a lot of risk involved in what you're doing, or you just sort of, went ahead and did? What did you feel when you were taking this on?
Yeah, there was definitely a little bit of risk because my parents helped with the initial startup costs and stuff, but I had to fundraise a lot of it on my own, so I wrote grants. I applied for grants through like DoSomething.org and other sites like that. I did like community fundraising, but there was a level of risk involved with the initial order of the shirts, and like there was a risk of not being able to sell all the shirts and raise enough money to cover my initial costs, and there was definitely a level of risk there. But I think when you're young is like when you can sort of, I guess, take all this risk. I mean, I couldn't just not go forward with it because of the risk. Like I was obviously a little worried about that, but at the same time, I couldn't just pass this idea by. Like I had to try it, so I just sort of went for it.
Tell me a bit about, you're here in the US and then you're doing this in India, and there's a lot of work that needs to happen on the ground there. So
Yeah.
how do you make this happen, and the knowledge that's needed to get things done in India? How do you manage that?
That's definitely really challenging. I'm actually hoping to, I guess, bridge that gap a little more this year. So, Whole Plan's been active for like 2.5 years now, but we've implemented like one project before, and then now we've collected enough funds to implement a bigger project. So in the past, that wasn't really a problem because it was like a small scale project, like distributing textbooks and stuff. And then my grandfather and we actually partnered with the head of the village in Chennai, like in southern Chennai, and basically worked with her. She's a widow, but she basically is in charge of like the
Thanks
little.
so much, Aneesha, and thank